Bonsoir, mon amours. C'est jeudi soir. It's Thirsty Thursday. It's time for our Romance Oracle reading with the Romance Angels Oracle deck. It's an out-of-print one, but we get to share it together every Thursday. And on our new moon and full moon readings. How are y'all doing? I am good. I had a couple of days off in a row that were just divine. I got so many things done that now I feel like I'm just a normal person again with like the normal things to do. And everything's caught up and I feel like $1,000,000. I'm working for the next several days straight. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling frisky. I'm feeling perky. I'm feeling energetic. So we'll see how long that lasts through a busy weekend full of people. All right, you guys, let's check in with our highest guidance, with our higher selves, with Holy Spirit, with the romance angels to see what we need to know in regards to our romantic life, our love life this week. What can we do to prepare our hearts, mend fences, maintain what we have, call in something wonderful wherever you are in your journey? Let's see if you found your way here. What do we need to know about our love life? What do we need to know to transcend our shadow self for the week to get started? How can we overcome our own self-defeating tendencies and shortcomings? What do we need to be on the lookout for? Oh, this one, this flipped over a couple of times while I was shuffling, actually. So this says, pay attention to the red flags. Favorite card, everybody loves this. The signs are cautioning you. So if you are seeing someone new, or if you are talking to someone new, or if you're already in something established and there have been things that have been sort of popping up on your radar recently, but you've been maybe turning a blind eye, pay attention to that. You may need to have a loving and honest discussion about boundaries and where you both are as far as expectations or as far as standards go. I have learned that no matter how hard I try to ignore red flags, they're still there, and they usually come to bite me in the ass. So if you catch these moments this week where you get a little thing in your gut where you're just like, I don't know, that didn't feel right. This seems like it might be a habit that's forming. Maybe somebody has some erratic behavior that you get a peek into. Remember, when you first start dating somebody, you're not really seeing the real them. You're seeing their best behavior. And if you're lucky enough to have found someone who's, say, a narcissist or a charismatic sociopath, you may not know until much later that they are like just pretending to be this great, wonderful person. So just pay attention to your gut. Your gut is always telling you what you need to know. Sometimes we ignore our gut and we lie to ourselves. However, I think it should be noted that if you are a person who's overly paranoid and you have a hard time trusting people and you're maybe like insecure and your insecurity is making you question someone all the time, like learn how to discern that. But it does seem like there's a reason that we should be aware of red flags this week. So don't lie to yourself. That's the hardest part. The hardest part about red flags is not spotting them, but it is actually taking them into account and then doing something about it, or not doing something because of the red flags, right? This is also applying to yourself. So if you are going along this week and say something kind of plays out to where you were almost gonna fall into a pattern, but then like the situation turned and saved you from it, pay attention to the fact that you were about to fall into your pattern, right? Pay attention to your own red flags to yourself this week as well. Pay attention to your behaviors, because it's very easy for us to feel like we have healed something or transcended it, especially if we have passed a test or two. But remember that this might be a challenge that we have to be really like vigilant about overcoming for a while. The moment that we let our guard down and think that we are like, oh, we've got it all figured out, that's when things are the shits are about to hit the fan, right? So be on your guard and be vigilant with yourself as well. Are you slipping back into old patterns? Are you getting all wrapped up into something too quick or too fast, or, with not a lot of substance behind it, right? I was listening to a conversation today, with a dating coach that I really like. His name's Matthew Hussey. And he and his fiance and his brother and this other guy that's in their team, were all discussing this woman's question. It's like, she said that this guy had been like everything she wanted. They had like this easy, like natural way and chemistry when they hung out or whatever, and everything was going well, but then like suddenly he just ghosted her or whatever. And so she, that he'd been kind of dipping in and out over the next few months, and she didn't really understand where she stood in the situation. She was just like, well, I don't know if it's all over or what. And then later she found out, like, in the meantime, he's gotten a girlfriend, and she was just devastated. And she's like, please help me get over him and like move on. And what they were talking about, they had this whole 20-minute discussion about that, and also pointing out that like she wasn't paying enough attention to the fact that he was the type of person that ghosted her in the first place. And then there was a lot of other like, red flags around him, like that were selfish, but like she was like overlooking those qualities and those behaviors and just focusing on the chemistry. And so what they were pointing out was that it is very dangerous to look back on, a period of time that you had with someone, or even just a period of your life, and being overly nostalgic and like wishing for that to be, putting more importance on it than there was, or more weight in it, or more substance on it, like projecting more on them than there was, because you're feeling nostalgic, because you're looking back on it with good memories, and you're only focusing on those good things, so it's become distorted. So just watch out. Don't become overly invested in someone until you know that they are matching your investment. And that means like how much you think about them, how much you're planning to hang out with them, how much you're willing to like change your schedule around for a person that you just met, like take your time in these things. All right. What else do we need to know? Oh, codependency. So, right. The red flags, you're watching for someone else's codependency and their tendencies, but you're also watching for these in yourself, because we're all on the spectrum of codependency, right? And if you've been hanging out with me in like these readings and, for any given period of time, it's my oven heating up, you will have probably been taking a look at your own codependency and trying to overcome it. Well, we've all been like doing this together, right? And people have been messaging me like along the way, over the last several months, and like telling me like about certain challenges that they had coming up, and like, how they chose to, act differently and stuff than they did before. That is great. But we have to stay vigilant, because, little things can pop up. I caught myself like sometime in the last couple of days, something came up that made me start processing the event in a way that I would have before in the past. I started kind of going down that road, but then I caught myself. I had the red flag, and I caught my codependency, and I was able to like nip it in the bud. But then it struck me, and I realized, oh, okay, so I'm not as far along in the healing process as I may have assumed or thought, or it felt like I was, right? So it just, gave me more consciousness to be even more present and aware with myself, and not lie to myself. Because that's the hardest part. It's just when you're super honest with yourself, then it's like you can't bullshit yourself and like not do what you know you need to do, right? That's when you're like ignoring the red flags. So pay attention to the red flags that others are throwing up, and pay attention to codependent tendencies in your own life that are causing you to have red flag moments with yourself. And then codependency. So signs of this might be if you are trying to like bend over backwards to accommodate someone else's needs all the time, but not yours. If you feel like you can't be alone with yourself in your own company, if you feel like you're not confident to do things on your own, or that you feel like you're not competent enough, so you need someone else, or like you feel like you have told yourself that you need someone else in the situation. Codependency is also an example of this is also when you feel responsible for how other people feel. So you put on this bravado or behavior or false self to appease the people around you so that you don't ruffle their feathers or offend them, like you feel emotionally responsible for them. That is called enmeshment, and that is a condition that exists between two people who are in a codependent relationship. And enmeshment, I feel like, is very popular between parents and children. And our first codependent relationship was with our parents, right? So it's about looking at those patterns and discovering them, and discovering, maybe habits and patterns that you didn't even realize were codependent. I never really started learning about codependency until about a year ago. It just wasn't on my radar. And then I listened to a To Be Magnetic podcast. It was entitled like Codependency and Partnerships or something like that. And I actually talk about not paying attention to your own red flags. And I knew I was doing this. I was avoiding listening to that podcast because I knew when they spelled it out for me that I would be in big trouble, because at the time I was still in my relationship of 5 years last summer. And I kind of had a feeling that as soon as I listened to that episode of the podcast, that it would get the ball of manifestation rolling, and it would lead to our ultimate demise. And sure enough, it did. I felt like I was ready to listen to the podcast, come what may. I listened to it. I listened to the different types of like codependent tendencies and relationships. And it was like, I saw it. I saw the codependency within my own past and in my own relationships. And it wasn't very long after that, maybe within a couple of days, actually, that the breakup ended up happening. It just kind of spontaneously happened that way. But I knew it. I knew it was coming. So, maybe look into codependency a little bit and see what some of the signs are and some of the behaviors around it. There may be ones that you're not even aware of, right? But just work on that. See, codependency also manifests as thinking that life just isn't as good if you're not in a relationship. It's so much better when I'm in a relationship. When I'm in a relationship, I will blah, 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 right? It's like you can't be on your own. You need to be like in a constant like partnership, because you're looking for fulfillment and that extra hit, that those love juices. So it's like you're addicted to the chemicals, or I should say we can include all of us in this. So we're addicted to the love chemicals that go off in our brain and in our hormones. And then we are, we're suffering under the impression that like, everything's so much better with a partner and life isn't as good without one, right? So what our goal is to get to the point where we understand that we are whole and complete on our own. And when we get into that space, and it's really true for us, then we don't feel a sense of neediness or lack or wistfulness or longing for someone else to be there and complete us. Like the ultimate codependent like anthem is from Jerry Maguire when he says, "You complete me." That's codependency. That is the definition of codependency. No one completes you. You're complete on your own, and an interdependent relationship is what we're wanting. And that is when two whole and complete, happy, satisfied, content people come together and enhance one another. They don't depend on one another. I mean, like, when you have an intimate relationship, of course, like, you depend on one another, but like, you're not like dependent on one another. Unless there are those times in life where emergencies come up. But at that point, you have established that you are in it to win it together. You're not like in the beginning phases of a relationship and like, you know, supporting someone's alcoholism. And like, I've heard of so many women recently just like, just around and like heard about people talking about other people who were like, oh yeah, like he was living with her and she was paying his bills and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, no, that is a codependent relationship. I mean, everybody needs help sometimes for a period of time in their life, but you know, when you're dealing with someone who is like, this is like a thing for them, right? So just be aware of that. We want interdependent relationships. Another example of codependency is the avoidant and the anxious attachment style scenario, which attachment styles play into the codependency. Those are also very fascinating and interesting. But if you are a person who is like, oh, I'm so afraid of intimacy, I'm so afraid of commitment, but you like are in love with love, and you're always trying to like seduce a person so that they'll like be like in love with you, but then like you're like, oh, I can't be in a relationship, so then you run from it and you're like constantly avoiding the commitment, but you're always in this pattern and this dance. Like, that's codependency too. Even like religiously avoiding commitment is codependency, because you're always playing this, like you're always playing out these scenes, these dramas with someone who you need a partner in that, right? It's like you need to play out this drama together. You need this dynamic. That is codependency, right? Even if you're the one that's like, I don't need anyone. It's like, well, yeah, then you need to be the one who doesn't need anyone. And so then you need the people there that are like, no, we need you. And you're like, but I don't need anyone. That's codependent too. Okay, so I can't get this card out of my fucking face. It's like, I'm like shuffling. And it's like, express your love. Go ahead and make the romantic gesture. You know, it's funny too, because to the show flyer I made today for last night's episode, I used the Madonna song, Express Yourself. It's so funny that this card would come up. You're so funny, angels. You have such a sense of humor. Yeah, I guess put it out there, express, get it off your chest. If the person doesn't reciprocate, then at least you can move on and move forward. And maybe they just don't know, right? So put it out there, express your interest. You don't have to lay it out on the table like some big like come to Jesus moment, or like some big like I've been wanting to confess my undying love to you my whole life. Like, you don't have to do that. Maybe just try flirting. Try doing something cute. All right, you guys, our last card for the week. So far we have, pay attention to the red flags. Don't be a codependent, but express your love. And it's like, oh, that's confusing. Just be very careful about every way you do this. Don't express your love to an avoidant. They'll run for the hills. Okay, all right. For all, in serious now, people, in seriousness. Get the fuck out of my face with this. Romantic feelings. Your romantic feelings are real and worth exploring. And this situation involves marriage. Good Lord. Okay, so this sometimes, like, I don't pay too much attention to this card, because this card could also be, like, signaling that something could be preventing you from marriage. There could be another person around you in your realm getting married, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this is the person you're going to be marrying. But I guess every relationship that we have ultimately affects our whether or not we get married, right? Because everybody that we're with, we're either going to break up with eventually or get married. So someone's either tying you up so you can't meet the person you're going to marry, or eventually you'll end up marrying them. Either way, I guess you just can't worry about it until it happens. Okay, you guys. It's like we're being warned, but at the same time, it's like, but go for it. And I think that this is a good moment to illustrate the fact that, like, we've never fully arrived. Like, we're never going to be, like, all the way healed or perfect. So we can't really put our lives on hold waiting until we're, like, the perfect, like, fully realized, you know, romantic partner for someone. But we just have to practice more self-awareness and practice self-mastery along the way. And so as we, you know, are going through our lives in these new chapters, in these new cycles, we're also wanting to bring our new self into our love life. And so in order to do that, in order to bring our new self into our love life and have a different love life than we've ever had, we have to be, like, super honest with ourselves. When we see red flags, pay attention, right? If the super version of you, if you were like the superhero version of yourself, the most fully self-realized, when somebody's pulling that shit, that's that red flag, or when you're doing it, when you catch yourself, be like, okay, would my super self would they stand by and let this happen? Or would they have a very, like, healthy and rational and confident discussion about it, and then figure out if they needed to take steps in another direction after that, right? Check yourself before you wreck yourself, before you wreck your sitch. Practice presence to stay aware of your codependent tendencies. Maybe do a little bit of reading about some things that you can keep an eye out for, behaviors in yourself and behaviors in other people, and how to progress beyond that. For me, this whole year has been about, you know, getting to the root of those issues for myself and that codependency and healing it. And the way I've been doing that is by prioritizing me instead of trying to, like, run out and date or whatever. I've been very relaxed and just being with myself and tending to my own world and my own life. And so I've been really establishing, like, that interdependent or the independence, but not so independent that I'm like, I don't need a man in my life. You know, I'm like, I'm open. I'm like looking to find one, but, like, unless someone matches my life very well, I am feeling fairly relaxed about keeping it this way for now. But this whole year has been a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to see my own codependency. And it comes up when I'm, like, very sensitive and emotional, and I'm feeling like I'm, like, all, like, wanting this or that, you know, and I can pause and be like, oh, well, why am I grasping at this or that thing? What satisfaction do I think it's going to give me? Do I feel like this is, like, providing me true agape love? Like, you know, like, how much is this fulfillment going to satisfy me? It's going to be fleeting, right? So in doing this and just paying attention to myself and my own patterns and why I want certain things and what is causing me to need something or think that I need something or crave something, right? Getting to the bottom of it. And really finding fulfillment in, you know, things that are not material world things, right? Everything that we reach for outside of us is going to be a fleeting high. And the real sustaining fulfillment comes from our relationship with Source and our relationship with self. And then it grows into how we can express that out into humanity, how the inner transformation has changed us, like, on the outside towards others, right? So we get satisfaction and fulfillment from that relationship, from connecting and knowing that we are not alone, even though we can't, you know, the things that we can see, there's more than that. There's more than what meets the eye. Yeah, so pay attention to your red flags and start learning about your own codependent tendencies, and start just slowing down so you can watch them, watch those patterns, and then take your time and choose with the wisdom and the experience that you have gained recently, you know, strengthening your self-worth, right? Holding out for what you know you deserve, learning to love yourself. It's hard to know what you deserve when you don't love yourself. And I think that learning to love ourselves is something that we all have to do. I don't think that most people are just like come ready out of the box, like loving themselves. I think we all have a little bit of baggage in that department. And I think it takes practice, and it takes like learning how to love yourself. It's like getting to know a new person and learning what their needs are and learning what their quirks and tics are. And we have to do that with us too. Express your love. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, put it out there. If you are attracted to someone, be honest. Show them your attraction. You don't have to like lay it on too thick or come on too strong. But if you are pretending to be just friends, in the presence of like a cute whoever, like they won't know that you are interested, right? So show your interest. And the more you practice this, like the more impenetrable you get to like rejection. Like if someone is not interested back, it's like you don't care, you're not embarrassed, you're not like, you know, forlorn. It's like, yeah, whatever. On to the next one, right? So get used to just expressing yourself in that way, being flirtatious, and it won't be such a big deal, right? It's better if we don't make a huge big deal about things, right? Just not so much pressure. And then your romantic feelings are real and worth exploring. So maybe if there's a hottie patata that you are liking, throw it out there. See if they are catching what you're throwing down. Maybe maybe your feelings are legitimate, and perhaps they return them as well. If they do not, keep on moving. Do not stick around in an unrequited situation. That's codependency. And you should pay attention to the red flags. All right, you guys, I am going to heat up my spaghetti. Oh yeah, and don't forget, the situation involves marriage. I mean, it could. Divine marriage within yourself. Integration. The masculine and the feminine energies, the inner and the outer, right? All right, you guys, y'all be good, behave yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow night. It'll be Friday, so it'll be a little bit later. We'll be doing our extended reading from whatever I post to Instagram tomorrow. And yeah, hope you have a nice evening. I'm going to get off here and go eat some spaghetti and water my garden. All right, y'all. Bonsoir.